Guys, welcome back. Let's go through some things and then let's look at some articles, okay? What have we been waiting on? Why is this taking so long? Why hasn't this happened? Have there ever been delays in this? Okay. Let's go through what's happened just through the course of this year because I think when you look at the articles, it actually paints a nice picture for you. So back in December, the former prime minister resigned, okay? And then also in December, the Council of Ministers had actually drafted and approved the 2020 budget in the month of December, ready to pass it off to Parliament. Okay? Then, as we enter January, February, March, Iraq tries to appoint a new prime minister, get a new prime minister in there. Finally, when they got to about the third prime minister, okay, around May, which is the current PM, but he was the third nominee, he finally was able to form his cabinet, okay, in around July. Once he got his cabinet formed that evening, okay, Iraq released a boatload of economic articles. Based on those actions, they told you that one of the layers of stability needed for Iraq to go international was they had to have a formed and completed government, okay? So they revealed to us that the status of Iraq being able to go international was dependent on Iraq having stability and forming a complete government. Okay? So from that point forward, that's when we saw these economic articles. And also kind of transitioned in with that was we saw a boatload of articles with Kurdistan and Baghdad needing to reach an agreement. Okay? And that agreement was needed. They need to have a government that can work together as a key layer of stability. The government has to be able to work together to get things done together. If the government's divided, they're not going to be able to work together and get things done, okay? So through those articles, they very clearly have revealed to us what the delays are, what we're waiting for, and what was needed for stability. They had to have a completed formed government, and all parties of the government needed to be able to work together. So they showed you what was needed for stability for Iraq to really go international, okay? And then, like I said, the Council of Ministers drafted the budget, had it ready to go pass off to Parliament, but they never did. Why? What was special about this budget? Why couldn't they pass it off to Parliament? It had nothing to do with, because the Iraq's had a working Parliament this whole time, okay? It's just they just didn't have a prime minister, okay? The prime minister's not needed to push the budget along. All they need to have is a working parliament. Parliament's the group that approves laws, not the government, okay? Reason is, guys, is what I've told you this entire time, this entire year. I've tried to tell you that that because of what's inside the budget, not the rate, there's not a rate in the budget. Budgets don't contain rates. What's in the budget are the reforms, okay? The reforms need the currency and require the currency to be internationally recognized. That's why Iraq had to delay the budget, because of what's inside of it, those reforms. Those reforms need and require the rate change, because it's the rate change that transitions the currency and makes it internationally recognized. So let's look at what recently happened. Back on August 20th, Iraq came to Washington. One of the companies they met with was GE. With GE, they signed a $1.2 billion agreement to upgrade Iraq's power grid and power plants and so forth. Now, why couldn't Iraq just pay for this, say, and why couldn't Iraq draft this contract agreement years ago? Because Iraq's currency has to be internationally recognized, okay? It's on track to become internationally recognized very soon. It's not there yet, though. Okay? So that's why they couldn't do these types of agreements or MOUs, memorandums of understanding, or contracts in the past. That's why all of these reforms, the white paper reforms, have waited until this quarter. Okay? Now that Iraq's preparing to go international, and they're showing you they're preparing to go international, that's why all the articles have transitioned to talk about Iraq becoming international. That's now what the articles are telling you. They all talk about Iraq performing international steps and tasks. So basically, Iraq has to have their currency internationally recognized to draft these international agreements. So now that Iraq is transitioning in the process to become international, they were able to draft these agreements. Okay, so just to help you guys out, there is no rate inside the budget. Okay, it's the reforms, as you guys know, they really launched the white paper reforms in this current quarter we're in right now. Okay, the reforms, because the reforms are in the budget, that makes the budget married to the rate change, because the reforms require the currency to become internationally recognized or be internationally recognized in order to implement the reforms and draft all those contracts and MOUs. Okay, that's why the budget is married to the rate change, and that's also why, because the reforms are inside the budget, that makes everything married to the rate change and dependent on the rate change. They can't, and they're showing you that they couldn't implement these reforms and push forward with them until the currency is internationally recognized. Okay, guys, that's a very key step in this. I just wanted to, give you a better understanding, because you guys have been hearing me say that the rate change is married to the budget. So some of you guys are thinking that because I've said that that you might have misinterpreted what I was saying, and you might have thought that the rate change is inside the budget, and that's not what I've ever said. So I'm just trying to help you guys clear the air on that what I've told you is that the budget's married to the rate change because the reforms are inside of it. And the reforms require the currency to be internationally recognized to implement and launch those reforms. Okay, so that's what's been going on. That's what we're waiting for, and I just wanted to give you guys a better understanding if you misunderstood. So let's look at some good article, guys. That's everything that we're waiting on. Iraq does have to have stability before the rate can change, and they're showing you that. They're achieving many layers of stability. They're trying to right now reach the final agreement between Kurdistan and Baghdad, and they're in agreement currently on the 2020 budget. Right now they're working to come into agreement with the 21 budget. Now I want to stress one more thing that nobody's understood as to why is Iraq in the process of approving a 3-year budget. Why 3? Why not just the 21 budget, guys? It's because of the reforms. They've told you the reforms can only be implemented in stages and phases. Okay, so they can only implement the reforms over an extended period of time. So, and basically they're showing you they're starting the reforms in this year of 2020, okay, in the second half of the year, okay, and that's because their fiscal year will go from October through March, and the fiscal year starts in April, okay. So what they're showing you there is that these reforms are pretty much going to start in 2020 and go and be applied to the second half of the fiscal year of 2020. But again, the reason why they needed nobody's caught on to this. The reason why they're doing a 3-year budget is because they're going to span the reforms over basically almost a 4-year period, kind of from 2020 through 23. So that's why right now, after 2020, they're approving a 3-year budget, because they're going to span the reforms over an additional 3-year period, and they have to budget those and allocate money for those additional reforms over a 3-year period. That's the reason they're doing a 3-year budget, okay, is to allocate money for the reforms as they implement them in stages and phases over the next 3 years. That's why they're doing a 3-year budget. Okay, just want to help clear the air on that. All right, guys, let's look at some articles. Let's see what the articles are telling us. All right, the Kurdistan Patriotic, the budgets. The region's share of the 2020 budget is good, and a step towards stabilizing relations between Baghdad and Erbil. All right, Baghdad, a member of the Parliamentary Finance Committee and a representative of the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, commented on Sunday, September 13th, on the Kurdistan's region's share of the 2020 budget. Mirza said in an interview received that the share of the Kurdistan region in the 2020 draft budget is good and a step towards stabilizing relations between the central government and the Kurdistan region. He added that increasing the average salary of the Kurdistan region's employee in the draft budget from 68 billion dinars to 76 billion dinars is also a good step. The member of the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan continued that passing the budget this way is subject to political agreement between Baghdad and Erbil and the extent of the conviction of the House of Representatives to vote on it, indicating that the draft 2020 budget law is technically good compared to the situation of the country and the circumstances of the corona pandemic and the results of both. He pointed out that the draft law is widely accepted in the Kurdistan region. Earlier, the General Secretariat of the Council of Ministers announced on Sunday, September 6th, that it will receive the special budget for the remainder of the year. The Secretariat said in a statement the legal department will audit the 2020 budget. She pointed out that the 2020 budget will be presented to the upcoming cabinet sessions for approval and referral to Parliament. Okay, so remember, guys, the budget is only going to Parliament to Council of Ministers at this time. The budget has not made it to Parliament. Okay, so they are waiting for the budget has to be approved by the Council of Ministers first. That's what's happening this week, and then they'll pass it off to Parliament, most likely sometime after September 20th, okay, which would be the following week. All right, a source close to the Prime Minister, Mustafa Al-Kazemi, told Al-Masla Thursday, September 10th, that the Prime Minister Kademi, with the Kurdish leaders, laid a clear and fair rule for resolving outstanding issues in accordance with the principle of the unity of Iraq, respect for Baghdad's decision, fair distribution of wealth, and subordination of its sources, oil and non-oil, to the federal authorities. So there you guys go. They're on track to get everything done. Again, they're already in agreement on the 2020 budget. They have to reach agreement on the 21 budget and probably 22 and 23. That's if they are doing a 3-year budget. And again, the reason they would be doing a 3-year budget is to implement the funding for the reforms, to approve the cost of the reforms over a 4-year period from 20 to 23. Okay, that's why they would do a 3-year budget, is to balance the budget for the reforms. That's why they're going to span the reforms over about a 4-year period. Okay. Next article. This is from yesterday evening. Iraqi politician calls for normalization of ties with Israel. Guys, this is big. As you guys know, you've noticed that the Trump administration has been working on what I showed you, kind of what Kim Clement prophesied about the amazing intervention. Okay, this is more of that. The Trump admin has been putting brand new peace agreements throughout the Middle East. You know, he's tackling them out left and right. Okay, and he recently won a couple of Nobel Peace Prizes for that. Okay, let's look at this article. Let's see what it says. Iraqi Sunni politician and the leader Alusi had called for the normalization of ties between Iraq and Israel after the two Gulf states made the move in the past few weeks. Alusi, who is known for his pro-West political views, told Shafak News on Saturday that he supports UAE and Bahrain for their decision to open a new chapter with Israel and normalize their ties. He explained that the conflict between Israel and Palestine has been exploited by some countries for their own interests and not for the good of the people of Palestine. There are nearly 700,000 Iraqi Jews who currently live in Israel. Why should we enter a war with them for the sake of the Gaza and for the sake of the bank accounts of the Palestinian groups? Alusi said. He also pointed out that the top of the Iraqi leaders have had meetings with Israelis, but they are afraid of Iranians because Iran is the policymaker in Iraq. So there you guys go. Let me do one more check. Let me see if there's any new articles out since I shared these with you. That's it. Okay, so these are the most current. Anyway, guys, there you go. News is looking good. Everything's moving in the right direction. Iraq is making tremendous progress to become international, and they showed you they're on track to become international. That's exactly what August 20th was. August 20th was Iraq theoretically going international. Remember, those are contracts. Contracts have a set period of time that once they're executed, they do require the rate to be internationally recognized. Okay, think about that carefully. All right. So anyway, guys, you guys are the best. I just wanted to help clear the air, make sure you guys know that there is no rate inside the 2020 budget. It's the budget, because the budget has reforms in it. The budget is married to the rate change because the Iraq can only pay. For example, I told you that they signed that contract with GE for $1.2 billion. Well, because of that, under Article 8, Iraq can only make payments with their currency, the dinar. They cannot use the US dollar. So in order for them to make payments, okay, their currency has to be internationally recognized. GE is not going to accept payment with a non-internationally recognized currency. Okay, so anybody receiving payment from Iraq, the dinar must be internationally recognized to receive those payments. That's why the dinar has to be internationally recognized. You guys are the best. Have a great day. Take care.